Hey, good to see everybody. John, well done. So I used to do a show on Fox Business. I'm just jumping in. Used to do a show on Fox Business, and John was on all the time. He's awesome, so thank you.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think he mixed up transportation and treasury there because he covers the treasury department so much.
Besson doesn't mind. Besson doesn't mind. You did,
John. So
the economic guys, you can't get him to stop thinking treasury.
So, Mr. Secretary, first off, really want to thank you for doing this, and also want to give a special shout out as well to a couple of our other sponsors, One Brief and Lighthouse. So thank you guys. Mr. Secretary, obviously this is a huge day for transportation news. So again, we appreciate you taking the time to break this down with us. But you guys announced yesterday, and this has started to go into effect today, 4% reductions today in flights across the country because of the ongoing government shutdown. That's going to scale up to 10% next week. Can you give us a breakdown of how, first off, why this is necessary, and then how these decisions were made and where and how this is going to impact people?
Yeah, so first off, air traffic controllers, a critical part of our aviation infrastructure, wonderful men and women who serve the American people. They do a great job. They have had one paycheck where they got a partial payment. The second paycheck was flat zero. They just got notice that the second full paycheck will be a big fat zero. That comes next week. And so there's been a lot of pressure on the controllers. And when that happens, I'm asking them to come to work. That's important they come to work. But some of them are new to the business. They don't have a nest egg that they've been able to plan for and prepare for. And if you don't get two paychecks, they're confronted with, like anybody else would be confronted with, how do I not just pay the rent, pay the car payment, but there's a gas bill, electric bill, there's a TV bill, there's food on the table, there's gas in the car, real life expenses that they're having to think through. And some of them have made the decision to not come to work but go take a second job. And what that has done is put a lot of pressure on the air traffic control system. And you've seen that play out over the course of the month with more delays and more cancellations. And by the way, it's not in the same place every day. One day it might be in LA, then it might be in New York, and then it's Houston or Dallas or Orlando. It's never the same place. And so we look at data. What is the data telling us today? And just as a side note, these two things are not related, but for the issue of data, we had a DCA air crash. And before that crash, there was information, had someone looked at the data, that there were near misses. And someone should have said, listen, stop the cross traffic. The data says, don't do it. Well, no one looked at the data. Well, we learned from that. We should look at data and what's happening. And so as we've done that through the FAA safety team, we're seeing loss of separation in the airspace. There's spacing for aircraft. There's been incursions in those separations. Those numbers have gone up. There's more incursions on the ground. And then we've had more complaints from pilots that have said, well, the controller is less responsive to me, or controllers seem to be more stressed. So we looked at that data, and the numbers are going in the wrong direction. This is a really long answer, but I want to explain.
No, please do.
The numbers are going in the wrong direction, and so then what is our response to that? And the response is to take pressure out of the system. And through the safety team, we've talked about lowering the number of flights. And so we were going to do 10% right away. The safety team said that could be even more disruptive. We should actually phase this in. To which we've done that. Today is the first day, 4% reduction. 4 days later, another 2%. 2 days after that, 2%, and then 2% on. And what I'm hoping to do is, again, take the pressure and more risk out of the system. We always try to manage the risk. Nothing is ever fully safe. A car's not safe. Walking down the street's not full. I mean, there's risk in everything we do. I'm trying to minimize the risk through this government shutdown. And bring us to a matrix that matches what we had before the shutdown. And I've had some complaints from Democrats. They've said, well, we want to see the data, and why are you looking at data? And this is political. This has not been political. We have worked overtime to make sure that we minimize the impact on the American people. We're trying to help the American people. And when I start to get attacked by Democrats, that also gets frustrating because there's a very easy solution to the problem that they put directly on my lap, which is open the damn government. Yeah. Vote to open the government. So those who snipe at me for having to take really unique action, they put that on my plate. So open it up. And by the way, did anyone remember some of the last shutdowns? I was part of those. We stayed here for a month. I gained 10 pounds, I think, because I ate pizza and the junkiest food. But you sit here every weekend, every day, while the government is shut down, and your family's upset, your kids are annoyed. That people would go home during a shutdown when the American people are suffering is just flat out wrong. Everyone should be here. Everyone should be working. No one should go home. Because, by the way, I saw today I was at DCA. Yeah. I'm letting you ask me questions. I'm sorry.
Sure. No,
I was at DCA. Yeah. There's people going to funerals. There's people who are trying to get home that can't get home. Why are senators going home? Keep them here. And especially the senators who voted no to open the government up.
Maybe we could put the senators who keep voting to shut the government down on the no-fly list.
That would be a great... Well played, yes.
So, Mr. Secretary, speaking of which, later today we're expecting the Senate to vote again on reopening the government. The Democrats are again expected to vote to keep the government shut down. So it means it's probably going to drag into next week. There's talk that the Senate Majority Leader, Senator Thune, will keep the Senate in for the weekend. But the point is that this isn't getting resolved today. This isn't getting resolved this weekend. So can you lay out for us what the long-term process here is? Because, okay, we know what's happening today. There's been 700 flights canceled, approximately, or maybe more than that around the country, and more coming, of course, next week as you scale up to that 10%. But it's not like you can just flick a light switch on once they open the government back up and they magically have a deal in Washington. I would imagine that it's going to take a little bit of time to get this alleviated as well.
Right. So we'll look at the data, look at where the controllers are at, and then give the airlines time to bring those flights back in. And so it'll be a systemic, approach. But again, I want us to go in the right direction of bringing more planes in, not what I have to do now, which is take more planes out. Does that make sense? But like just one other. Yeah, we're like 2,000 air traffic controllers short. We're trying to bring in more controllers. We're trying to hire more controllers. I'm trying to tell young people who are really smart, they're bright. I'm like, this is a great job for you. This is a great career. And then you hear, well, actually, you can go a month and not get paid. It doesn't feel like you have a lot of respect by doing this really important job. And so we're up 20% of our students through the academy. This has a big impact on our ability to make up the difference in that shortage. It makes it harder for me. And long after everyone forgets about the shutdown, I'm going to deal with the consequences of trying to repair the system, which, by the way, I'm asked what did the last administration do to try to fix these problems? Not a lot. We're going to try to fix them. We're going to take on the hard problems.
Yeah, and I want to get more into the modernization efforts and what's needed to fix the air traffic controller system once the government's reopened. But also, what would your message be to, there's thousands of Americans whose flight plans and travel plans have been disrupted today. There will be tens of thousands over the course of the next several days into next week as this continues. What's your message to those people? What would you say to them?
I would say look at the votes in the Senate and see who voted to open the government and who voted to shut it down. And then I'd call those senators who voted to shut it down. And that's where the blame lies. And that's not for I understand there's true differences of opinion. And I'm okay with that. But this is not the system we have to address differences in opinion in the legislature. We have legislation, we have debates, and we have votes, and we have elections that set the number of people we have in each party in each body. If you lost an election, you can't just stomp your feet and pound your fists and say, I want to get my way by holding the American people hostage. We don't do it that way. And so I think Democrats have to come to their senses and maybe leverage a vote, maybe leverage a debate, but to give something up to open the government up, I think would be a mistake on the Republicans' part.
Now, also, we have the holidays looming. Thanksgiving is just a few weeks away. Christmas right around the corner after that. Is your hope that this is resolved by then and that we can get, because, I mean, we're going to see massive numbers of Americans, maybe record numbers, traveling for the holidays this year. Yeah. Is the hope that this is resolved by then and that we can get everything scaled back up?
I think I'm like every American. I want it to be resolved. I want it to be fixed. But also, I have to continue to look at data. And if this continues and I have more controllers who decide they can't come to work and control the airspace, but instead have to take a second job, with that you might see 10% would have been a good number, because we might go to 15% or 20%. And one of the consequences of that too is our airlines, this is going to cost them tens of millions of dollars. This is not cheap for them. It's costly, and it's really disruptive for the traveling public. But again, we do a lot of things at DOT. If you follow, I mean, we have rail and roads and bridges and ports and airports and pipelines. The most important thing we do is safety. That is job one. And the American people look to us and rely on us to make the right decisions, to do all we can to keep them safe when they travel.
Yeah, and we've seen the NTSB, which is the safety board, the independent safety board that monitors you guys. They've been praising your decision to scale back the flights, because they know the impact that we're talking about here with the air traffic controllers and what they're going through. So now, Mr. Secretary, in addition to the people traveling and the effect on the airlines, there's also effect on commerce, right? Like, I mean, we're seeing, there's a lot of people may not understand this, but the UPS, Amazon, FedEx, they fly stuff around the country. And can you explain for us the impact this might have on the broader economy here as well?
I think if you, and I don't think the businesses have been that vocal about the impact that this is having on their business and on the economy. I think they want to stay out of the politics of this. So they're not being very vocal. But if you talk to them behind the scenes, they're saying, of course, this is having a substantial impact on our business. And so I think how long this lasts will dictate what kind of impact it has. But even with air travel, Scott Kirby from United was saying, listen, we see a direct impact on bookings right now during this shutdown. And if people don't fly, that is cars, that is hotels, that is restaurants. I have to imagine a lot of people might want to fly and go see football games this weekend. All of this massive economy is impacted when we reduce the number of people who can travel, and so it will have an impact.
Right. So now, speaking of the broader air traffic controller system, let's say once we get the government reopened and get this back up to normal, I know this has been a major issue for you as Secretary, about focusing in on how do we solve this problem. You mentioned we're 2,000 short as it is anyway. How do we get those numbers back up? You mentioned there's several that are in the school right now. Walk us through the process of this. How do we get to those numbers, and then also the equipment that we need to get into place?
So we have our main academy is in Oklahoma City, and it was the process and the length of time to get a young person who wanted to become a controller could take well over a year, sometimes 2 years. We've streamlined. By the way, if you're 24 years old and you want to be a controller, but you have to wait a year and a half, most of them are going to go find a different career and a different job. So we've streamlined, tightened the time frame in which you can get into the academy. We're giving a bonus when these young people come into the academy, and we're going to pay them more while they're at the academy. The stipend has gone up. So I'm trying to incentivize young people to come in, and our throughput is up 20% this year. We're going to work on improving that as well. On the back end, we have great air traffic controllers who can retire after 25 years of service. And so what I've done is I've asked them, listen, if you'll not retire and you'll stay on the job, we'll give you a 20% upfront cash bonus for the year. And every year after, we're going to pay 20% extra to stay on. Those are the best controllers we have. I want to pay them to not retire. So we're doing that. But it's going to time is what we need. It takes time to build those numbers up. So that's one side of it. The other side is what we're doing on our really old air traffic control system. We're using old, copper wires from the 1980s. It's just, it's actually atrocious. It works, but nothing we should be proud of. And so we need $31.5 billion, which, by the way, to build a brand new system is not a lot of money. compared to how much things cost. So $31.5 billion. The Congress in one big beautiful bill gave me $12.5 billion, and we're very specific about how I could use that money. And so it's new radar, radios. The key part of this, if you look back to what happened in Newark, we had a telecom outage. It was a 30-second outage. For the scopes to reboot, it actually took a minute and a half without any scopes or radar. That's actually very concerning for hopefully everybody. We worked with Verizon and others to rebuild those lines. But that shows how old a lot of our telecom is. So we're going to transition from copper to fiber, analog to digital. That's in this phase is the most complicated part of what we're going to do. And so the network is going to be secure. But if I think about what does a brand new air traffic control system look like, that's the software, right? That's a common automation platform. I don't have the money for that. I have people that are working on that. But when we get the money, we want to move as quickly as possible. But because I don't have it now, that's going to take years to not just develop it, but to debug it and then deploy it to train air traffic controllers on it. So it's a big job and it's a hard job. And that's why I don't think it's been done in the past. It's easy to try to pass this system off. And President Trump has asked us to take on the biggest problems of the country and fix them. And that's what we're doing here.
So on that note of getting the rest of the money that you need to be able to do this, there's talk of another reconciliation package coming together early next year. I know Senator Graham has been talking about that. Have you talked to the president about this? Have you talked to members of the U.S. Senate about this? Are they considering adding more into this next reconciliation plan that they're talking about? I saw some reports yesterday that they seem a lot further along than people expected, which seems, I guess, promising. But your thoughts on that? Yeah.
So President Trump was talking to me about this, even before he gave me the job, and then after he gave me the job, he knows the problems we have with our airspace. So the president is 100% supportive, which is fantastic. We can talk about politics all day long. I can throw blame on the shutdown. What's great about this issue is this is bipartisan.
Sure.
Everybody agrees that this has to be done. And when you have bipartisanship and recognition of the problem, that actually is the best political situation you can have to get the rest of the money. So I'm hopeful they'll give me the rest of it. And by the way, so this is the common automation platform. There's, but some of our towers and centers are they're really, really old. And so not all of them, but many of them have to be rebuilt. And so some of the money in the plan is also for actually bricks and mortar to build, new infrastructure. Our controllers should not have to work in some of the environments that they're working in, on some of the equipment that they're using. And just one last point on that, we do have old equipment. The equipment works, the equipment's safe, but it is old. We have the most efficient, safest airspace in the world, not because of amazing technology. It's amazing controllers is why we have a safe, efficient system. And again, I think it's atrocious that they would be treated this way.
So shifting gears here, big other topic that is very much in the news around that you guys are focused on in the Department of Transportation has been the issue of illegal aliens driving trucks in America. We've been seeing the blue states out there like California, Washington State handing out CDLs to illegal aliens, people in the country illegally, non-citizens, and there have been a number of incidents in the last month or so where these folks have crashed and killed Americans. There were at least two that I've seen. You guys released a bombshell explosive report about California and Governor Newsom not following the law about this. Can you give us the latest on what has happened with regard to this issue and how you guys are reining in states like California on this?
So there's two issues. There's non-domiciled commercial driver's licenses. Let me first talk about English proficiency. That was the first issue we came out with. There's a long-standing rule. We didn't create this rule in this administration. It's been here for decades. You have to be proficient in the English language, speaking and then understanding road signs. Pretty common sense for a commercial driver. In the Obama administration, they basically switched the penalty to be a slap on the wrist. No real penalty if you can't speak the language. We went back to the pre-Obama change and would take vehicles out of service, which is very complicated for a company if you're taking their vehicles out of service. We went back to the old rule. One of the problems we have is California was the only state that, in essence, have told their law enforcement officers not to enforce English proficiency rules. Now, that California driver who's not proficient in English, if they drive in Oklahoma and get pulled over, they're like, aha, well, listen, he was pulled over in California. They didn't do anything, but obviously he can't speak the language. So California's not enforcing the rules. So we pulled $40 million from California because of that. The second issue is a non-domiciled CDL. So what does that mean? The rule, this was set up so if, again, I'm from Wisconsin, I want to go to Texas, I'm not domiciled in Texas, but I want to get a Texas commercial driver's license. I could come from Wisconsin where I'm a resident, I could go to Texas and I could get a commercial driver's license in Texas, and it's all legal and it's made for Americans going from state to state. Well, like many good rules, this was contorted and abused, and now you see foreigners coming into the country and getting non-domiciled commercial driver's licenses. It was not intended for them, but that's how the law was contorted. So these commercial driver's licenses were issued like states in California, like in California, where if I'm here, I'm a foreigner, my work permit lasts until the end of this year. California would issue them a commercial driver's license, maybe that expires 2 years after their work permit. That's an incentive to stay in the country longer, number one. But two, there's no justification to give them I don't know what their status is going to be, after the end of this year. Yeah. So a lot of them were issued illegally, number one. Number two, some of them weren't here legally at all. So you have an illegal in the country that should actually, when they come into the DMV, they should be deported. Instead, they were given a commercial driver's license. And again, this is our big rigs, but they can also, they can drive hazardous materials, they can drive school buses. Incredibly problematic. And so the country has been flooded with these kind of drivers. It has decimated a lot of our this is not why we're doing it, but it truly has decimated the American truck driver, where it used to be a good living you could make. Not any longer.
I'll tell you, we hear from truckers all the time because we host radio, and a lot of them are listening to satellite radio around the country. I get calls every Saturday morning from at least a handful of truckers around the country, and it has been going on for years, where they are raising these exact issues, particularly the English proficiency issue.
And they're happy now we're addressing it. The president has said, make sure we follow the intent of the laws, and that's what we're doing. So basically, we told every state, you can't issue any more of these non-domiciled CDLs, these foreigner CDLs. So they have stopped. But then we said, you have to go back and review for the ones you've illegally issued. And a lot of states have been willing to comply. Again, California has been unwilling. So there's additional money we can pull from them. At one point, we can pull their authority to even issue commercial driver's licenses. Now, I don't want to fight with Gavin Newsom. I just want them to comply. You want people to be safe, right? And if you see these crashes, it is truly problematic. You want well-trained individuals on American roadways, and I don't think we feel like that's necessarily the case after some of these rogue states.
Right. So now the latest has been that you guys put out this really a bombshell report about how California hasn't followed the laws on this in the lead up to this horrific incident. But can you tell us kind of what's next on the horizon on this? What is the next stages here with Governor Newsom? And by the way, is Governor Newsom, because he didn't follow the laws here, is he responsible for those deaths, or like?
It's California as a whole. Yeah. Right now, I don't think you're going to be able to sue Gavin Newsom, but so we gave California 30 days to comply, and they've all stopped. They're not issuing new licenses. Have they complied and going to review what we think is a substantial thousands of illegally issued driver's licenses on the commercial driver front? I'm not sure whether they've done that or not. But they've blatantly said we're not going to enforce the English proficiency rules. Again, I don't, and I don't. This is not. If people come in the country illegally, there's a whole debate you could have, which I'm on. You probably know the side that I'm on. On border security and what we should do with people who are here illegally. This is not that debate. This is a debate about safety. This is about making sure you have well-trained commercial drivers on our roads. We have a lot of these drivers that are going through CDL mills, commercial driver license mills. And again, if you're going to get tested and go through a school and you can't speak English, that might be a flag to go, you probably shouldn't go, I shouldn't refer you over to the DMV to get a driver's license. Or if you go get your physical, the nurse or doctor that gives you your physical, if you can't speak English, that's also a flag to be like, hey, maybe I'm not going to pass this person. Yeah. The system is set up to pass these people through, and then the DMV in California is giving them the commercial driver's license. This is a safety issue, and you've seen, it's not just one, multiple crashes on American roadways that are horrific, that should never happen. And so I'm not engaging in the debate, which I have an opinion on, of illegals here. This is a debate about, do I want to keep Americans safe on American roadways? That's the conversation that Gavin Newsom is refusing to have, because I don't know if he thinks it's good politics. I would argue it is not.
Right. So now the other incident that I mentioned there, this happened in Florida, where there was again an illegal alien in the country, got a CDL during the Biden administration, but they got their CDL in Washington State. And that came only after failing the test 10 different times before they finally got the CDL. So how do we fix that CDL mill issue that you're talking about there, where they're just churning these people out in the blue states like that?
We're going to go after them, right? We're going to go after these CDL mills. Mm-hmm. But this is an interesting space. Maybe you're all bored about this. It's really important, I think, to do this right. And it gets to be really complicated really quickly. And we're trying to navigate and take the right amount of time to address all of these problems. There's the issue of cabotage. You can come from Mexico and you can drop a load in the U.S. And then the rule is you have to go back to Mexico. What's happening, though, is that Mexican truck and driver are picking up multiple loads thereafter and driving throughout the country, doing deliveries, and then going back to Mexico. And by the way, that's taking jobs away from American truck drivers. They shouldn't be doing this. Well, it gets to be complicated to figure out who these drivers are. AI can be very helpful to us on, if you drive in, you drop, when should you be coming back through customs? If you come back 5 days later, ding, 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 we might have a problem. But no one's used these tools, and no one's focused on it, no one's cared. We actually care about this and are working through the issues to resolve the problems.
Okay, so now shifting gears here again, deregulation. You guys have taken a number of historic steps during your time as secretary. I believe you've done $1.3 billion in deregulation. Can you kind of lay out for us how you've saved taxpayers' money on this? What are the major things that you're going after? How you're doing it? Walk us through the. Just
name a couple. This is not in the list, but we have the California high-speed rail, the rail to nowhere. By the way, I want high-speed rail in America. I think if Europe and Asia can have it, I think America should have it too. But the California high-speed rail was never going to be built. It was billions and billions of dollars over budget, and it was decades overdue. We pulled that money. Speed limiters for trucks, another example, where again, I think that's a safety issue with taking out the speed limiters. We're about to announce CAFE. CAFE is going to be, I think, the largest dereg that comes in the federal government as a whole. And it was going to drive down the cost of a vehicle because, again, a 50-mile-an-hour efficiency standard is unattainable for a combustion engine. And so we were driving up the cost and the carbon credit purchases for American car companies, getting rid of that and having a more sound mile per gallon threshold is going to, again, allow us to sell more cars and allow us to bring down the cost of a car, to the tune of thousands of dollars. But I think we have 150 regulations that we've worked on rolling back, and not for the sense of just rolling regulation back because we think that's great and people make more money. We think that we could roll regulation back, maintain safety, increase efficiency, and a lot of these rules are just stupid.
Okay, so the last big thing I want to really talk to you about here is prices. Obviously, we just saw the elections in New York City, in Virginia, and in New Jersey, and the big talk is that Democrats are talking about affordability. It's like, I don't know where they've been on this for years, but anyway, point is that was the big talking point around Donnie's victory there.
Yeah.
I think that the steps you guys are taking are designed to try to bring prices down, right? The transportation affects everything with regard to prices. So can you talk to us about how President Trump's administration more broadly, and also the steps you guys are taking at the Department of Transportation, are designed to bring prices down and combat inflation?
Well, just at a 30,000 foot level, when you have more rules and regulations, that costs more money. Prices go up. If you spend more money or print more money, you deflate the value of the dollar. That causes causes inflation. That causes prices to go up. We've tried to spend less money and not reduce all regulations, but reduce dumb regulations and dumb rules. That's been the policy across the board, and I think the consequence of that will be that you will see prices come down. But if you're 26 years old and you look at the cost of a car, you look at the cost of housing, and you think, am I ever going to? My parents bought a house at 32 years old. When I'm 32, I can't buy a house. That's a huge problem in America. You want people to be able to afford the American dream. And so what are we doing on housing policy? What are we doing to, again, I want people to buy safe homes. What can we do, though, to alleviate some of the pressure around the regulations that will allow us to build good, safe homes that someone can afford and start their American dream? And I want people to have kids. I have 9 kids, by the way. I think kids are great. The kids are a lot of fun. Kids will give you joy throughout your life, and maybe a little bit of pain too, I don't know. But kids are great. But if you can't buy a house, how do you have family formation and how do you have kids? Some of the most joyful things in life can't happen unless you can afford some of these basics as you start your families. And so we're working on bringing the home prices down. If we can work on bringing the price of a car down. If the president is successful, and I think he will be, at bringing back more jobs, bringing back more jobs means more competition for labor, which means we can have an elevation in salaries and not affect the competitiveness of our companies because we don't have to spend as much on rules and regulations. Can I tell you guys a quick story? So I was in Wausau, Wisconsin in 2018. Great town, by the way. And I went to Walmart. And I was trying to buy a Roku. I'm not very tech savvy. I bought a Roku, and the guy helped me buy a Roku. Had no idea how to help me. He just walked in the door. It was not helpful at all. Frustrating. And I told you I have a lot of kids, so I don't do 2 carts, but I pack my cart really well strategically as I go through Walmart and get all this food in one cart. And I'm going through the checkout line, and it's taking forever to get to the checkout line. The lady it's literally slowly moving. And it took me forever to get through. I was going out to my car and I was pissed. I'm like, what the hell? What a crappy service. And then as I was, loading my stuff up, I thought, you know what happened actually? The people that used to work at Walmart that were well trained, they've been pulled out of Walmart into a different job in Wausau. And this is a new group of people who have come in because of new opportunity, because there were so many jobs available, so many opportunities available, that someone at Walmart that at the time was making $13 or $14 an hour was now out making $22 an hour because businesses needed more employment and good people to employ. That's what happens when people can rise up. You can start at Walmart, but there's another great opportunity that you can step from Walmart into somewhere else. And then Walmart can bring in a new group of people and train them, and they can step up. You do want that upward mobility, and I think the Trump policies, I saw it in 18 and 19, and I think you're going to see that again as these are implemented. You help people elevate and step through the economic classes and improve their skills and their ability to get a good paying job.
Mr. Secretary, the last thing I want to ask you about here, take us inside. We've seen the historic transparency from President Trump. He literally live broadcasts the cabinet meetings, right? Like, and I know you're there for those. Can you take us inside the room for one of those? What's it like being in there in the White House when President Trump does one of these cabinet meetings?
He is the most amazing boss. He is what we learned from him on how he fights for the American people, how he thinks about issues. By the way, he makes decisions very quickly. Usually, sometimes he'll wait, and usually he's smart to wait on those issues. But we'll have a pre-meeting. We'll talk about anyone have anything to say before we let the press come in. Who wants to go? Do you got anything? All right. And then if you have something you want to say in private, you can talk in private with him. By the way, he gives a rendition before kind of the state of play of what he's seen, what he wants to do, what he wants us to think about. That all happens before. And what is interesting in this cabinet is, well, I've never been in a different cabinet, so maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Everyone likes each other. Everyone likes each other, and you see people wanting to work together. Like, how could I work with Bobby Kennedy? Which, by the way, we're going to announce some things that Bobby and I are going to do together. Which you're like, how do you and Bobby do things together? It's going to be kind of fun. But it's the collaboration. People want to work together. People want to serve the president, want to make him proud, want to make the country proud. That is a really great environment. If you're thinking about a team, that's the way you want your team to behave. They like each other. They're fighting for each other. They're fighting on a mission to help the country. That's what the pre-meeting is like. And then you all see he opens it up, and who knows what's going to happen. It's a lot of fun. Sometimes he just goes around the whole table, and sometimes he'll call on people to give different messages. But can I just make one other point about the president?
Absolutely, yeah.
I have never seen someone work hard. I can see. So in my job, I can see there's a lot of people that come into my office every single day. Like, I'm never alone. And it's a great thing, and I got a great team, and great people. He gets that times 10.
Sure.
And 8 o'clock in the morning, 7:30 in the morning, he's on the phone, because I'll be on the phone with him that early. So he's on the phone upstairs. He comes in at 9 o'clock, and all day long, he's moving, he's meeting, he's thinking. Then he goes into dinner, and then dinners, he's usually meeting with people. And then at night, he's still on the phone again, calling people. Or if you call him at night, he picks up. He doesn't stop. But he's a machine. And I love that I have a president that is going to work that hard to serve the American people, to make the country great, to do every moment he has, he's maximizing. It's not vacation time. It's work time. And even his kids will talk about in his businesses, he worked really hard. And he's working even harder than he did in his businesses for the American people. And I love that. And even in the shutdown, in the Barack Obama era, Obama was trying to make it really painful on the American people. Shut down the trail, shut down, in the
open air parks.
Open air parks.
Yeah.
Make it painful for President Trump. Actually loves America, loves Americans. He's tried to make it less painful. And you might argue that's bad politics because there's no limited pressure on Democrats. That's not he doesn't want people to be in pain. He wants the country to be better off. He wants to serve the American people and make their lives better and make it great. And when you have a shutdown, that goes against the grain of trying to make the country great. And so he tries to minimize that. And I love that about him, that every day he wakes up and works longer, fuller days to make the country incredibly great and everyone prosperous.
Mr. Secretary, really want to thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Give our best to the president.
Will, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to apologize to Secretary Duffy for demoting him from Transportation to Treasury. I understand that he kind of